Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Monsters of the Gridiron podcast, where three of your favorites from Bears DIY community came together to bring facts and give an FU to media narratives. I'm your host, Vil, and I'm sure you already know these two fellas, Swift and Will. I'm going to go ahead and pass to Will, let everybody know where they can find you, and tell them how you doing today.
Hey, everybody, I'm Will Wright. You can find me at Will Wright06 on Twitter, Will Wright34 on the gram. And look, we just excited right now at the conclusion of the season. It didn't go as we planned, but hey, we're gonna be in for a long off season, and I think it's gonna be a great one to get us back to the days of dominance.
Absolutely. How's everything down there in D-Town or in Texas?
Hey, D-Town is wild. We had an explosion about 45 minutes ago in Fort Worth. I just got a bunch of messages, so I got to make sure I don't have no people over there in that area. But, other than that, it's low-key. The Packers come to town this weekend because they'll be playing the Cowboys, so I'm contemplating on going to that to see the Packers get their face smashed in the way we should have done it.
Yeah, you would. If we got the job done, you wouldn't even have to welcome him into the town.
Right.
All right, we also got our boy Swift in the building. Everybody know who Swift is. That's my guy.
What's good, my
got
man?
me in the podcasting and everything. Swift, how you feeling today?
Man, I'm good. I'm ready to watch this national championship game, but also ready to talk about the Bears for a little bit here. It's been kind of a hectic day. A lot of coaches fired. I'm ready. How you guys feeling?
Real good. Black Monday. It hit at 12:02. I got the notification before I went to bed. I was like, here it go. But of course, where's our news? We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to get into this Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers reactions. We needed a day. We couldn't come on yesterday after the game. I was flipping tables. I was drunk out at bars in Naperville and around Oak Brook and Chicago, just trying to drink my sorrows away. But fellas, I'm going to start with Will. Let us know your reactions from the game. Just the reactions. How were you feeling? The disappointment? Just give it to us.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm at a loss for words because going into that game, I really felt that we were going to not necessarily upset, but get the win. Like I don't look at like the way we were playing, the way I know both of us were 5-2 down the stretch. Our defense humming. I know Jordan Love had been playing well, but I just felt no Christian Watson, and then no Dillon, no AJ Dillon. So I just felt the matchups played to our advantage. And then once the game started, the quick game was doing pretty well in the beginning, but it's like, as usual, our guy, Gessie, he goes away from what's being productive. And once he started implementing longer developing routes, Justin got to hold on to the ball because the receiver's not getting no separation. Tevin Jenkins just came out on Instagram and apologized for a very porous game yesterday because I think he gave up like 2 sacks, 4 pressures. And just to see that, it was demoralizing because it's like we weren't going to the playoffs, but we had the opportunity to prevent the Packers from going to the playoffs. And to me, going into the offseason, man, that would have been phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel you. Swift, how was you feeling after the game?
Man, that's a rough game to watch, man. In a season where we had a lot of improvement, we had won 5 of the last 6 games, and we have a chance to end the season just like the Lions did by knocking the Packers out of the playoffs, and we don't get a single touchdown on offense. That's disappointing to me. The play calls, I mean, I talked about it in the video today, but I don't understand how you can have Trent Taylor asked to block Rashawn Gary one-on-one. That is, I don't know, that's football 101. Like, nobody with intelligence is going to let that happen. And to me, it was a letdown. I mean, I wanted to win that game. I wanted to knock the Packers out of the playoffs. Now we got to watch them get another week. Hopefully the Cowboys smack them down like we should have, and they just gifted us 2 top 10 picks. But we have a lot of chaos heading into this offseason, man. I'm ready for it. I'm a little excited. 2 top 10 picks. A lot of uncertainty, though.
Absolutely. I'm disappointed. I came in charged up, hoping to go into the offseason with a win so we can come into this episode excited. I mean, I'm excited regardless. You know what I'm saying? We Bears fans, just always bear down till we die. But just the way we lost was disappointing. And then I had to be out in public with all this Bear stuff on. And it just, nothing went well. Nothing went well at all. So my emotions are extremely at a low point at this point. I'm sure you fellas are too. So we're just going to go ahead and get into the Chicago Bears season review so we can get that taste out of our mouth. So this season, I believe a lot of us came in seeing all the moves Ryan Poles made to build the roster, hoping that Getsy and Eberflus took a step forward now that they had the talent that they claimed that they needed that they didn't have the year before. So, fellas, I'm going to start with Swift on this one. What were your expectations for the team in 2023?
I expected us to win between 7 and 10 games. And to be honest, we hit those expectations dead on the head. I mean, we won 7 games and we blew 3 10-plus point leads with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So those are wins 8, 9, and 10 right there. And we just let those slip away. And if we would have got 1 or 2 of those this season, I think a lot of fans would feel a lot differently about how this season ended. But at the same time, 7 wins for a fan base like us when we haven't had a lot of success in most of our lifetime. So to me, 7 wins isn't enough. I'm not super happy, but I am happy with the progress.
Okay, I feel you. Will, what are your thoughts?
Well, initially when I looked at the schedule, that last place schedule, I said, you know what? And I looked at the other teams with the issues they had, quarterbacks, and I didn't really factor in that our coaching would be so bad when it came to like situational coaching. So I was looking expectation wise, floor, I was like 12 wins. And then I thought we might have a magical season like 2018. So I said, look, we might go 15-2 with losses to Kansas City or, maybe a Detroit. But like realistically,
I was on that Kool-Aid. He was on that Kool-Aid.
But think about it. Like you said earlier, though, Broncos, Lions, Browns, that's 10 wins. If we get better coaching against the Vikings in Chicago, that's 11. You get better coaching against in the Tampa Bay game when we had momentum coming back, that's 12. So
yeah, the Tampa Bay game was tough. I think a lot of it had to do with we had a lot of new players as far as offensive line, all over the defense. There's just too many new players, and hopefully we can flip that switch next year.
Well, I hope so as well. And then, like, you look at the Saints game, we could like those are games realistically with better coaching and better implementation of personnel and better play calling in different situations. Those are games we could have won. We had the momentum, we led in all of them. So it's like when you coach conservative, and I was always taught this, when you play as a prevent, normally what a prevent do? It prevents you from winning. Like, you got to stay aggressive on defense, and you also got to stay aggressive on offense, especially with us. We kick a lot of field goals. When you go back to that Lions game, field goal. It's 26-14. You thinking in most cases that's a win, but what do? We coughed it up. So it's like when you look at 2023 expectations, like Swift said, 7 wins. Okay, we're trending upward. But also when you look at the wins that we had and against the quality of the competition, realistically out of those 7 wins, we only got 1 win against a winning quarterback, and that was Jared Goff. Everybody else was either a backup or their coaches got fired. So, are we really excited about that? Because we played a lot of porous teams. So, you got to look at the overall dynamics of the wins, how we got the wins, and the situation in which the wins occurred.
Yeah, I feel you. I came into the season expecting 7 to 10 wins, maybe not a magical playoff run, but at least being somewhere first or second in the division, hoping that they at least did something to change the concepts behind the defense, be a little bit more aggressive on both sides of the ball, since you have the talent that you've been claiming that you liked the year before. And a few of those games, if they turned out differently, if the defense stepped up, but if it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, right? So, so to me, like, it's right where it should have been, and it kind of helps. And we'll get into it a little later. I don't want to get into it too soon, but it might help us get the wish of being able to move on, because I don't feel it was enough. But we'll get into that in regards to the coaching staff a little later. But let's get into some bright spots, or at least talk about the players. So first thing I want to talk about is players who are impressed. So we had a pretty good, I would say a top-notch draft, because a lot of people slept on him. I know with me, I go straight to Swift. I put the notifications on for his videos around January. I don't have to turn them off, but I pay attention first week of January for any news, and then he starts his Senior Bowl. He goes into the Senior Bowl. He starts looking into the videos and doing prospect checkups and breakdowns for all the prospects and the best fits for the defense based on the coaching schemes. And it's a wonderful thing. If you have not subscribed, to Swift, you're missing out. Because it's about to start and it's about to be fire. But we had a pretty solid draft. We had a pretty solid free agency class. So, Will, coming into this year, knowing that we put a lot of talent around the roster, we wasn't finished, but what guys impressed you?
Well, when you look at offense, right off the muscle, DJ Moore, he was more than advertised as a number one wide receiver, even though in the past offseason, people were arguing that he wasn't a number one wide receiver. And I think he showcased that, and he did it with consistency. So when you look at how every time a big play needed to be made, and if the ball went his direction, and it shows based off of Justin's numbers, like his QBR, no interceptions, 9 touchdowns, 78% completion rate, like all of that shows that Justin had the level of trust with DJ, and DJ, he showed up and showed out. Now, if you go to defense, we had several, from the hitman, TJ Edwards. Like, he got snubbed for the Pro Bowl, just like DJ got snubbed for the Pro Bowl. But TJ Edwards, outside of that one game against the Chargers, when he whiffed on that Eckler screen, like, he was automatic. When he put helmet on body, you went down. Tyreek Stevenson, one of those great acquisitions in the draft that you spoke of earlier. He ended up with 4 interceptions. And look, if you look at where he went in the draft, as opposed to all the other corners that went before him, essentially he outshined every one of them once the game slowed down for him. So again, those are just 3 acquisitions that I think came in. I don't want to take away from the ones that Swift about to identify. So, hey, Swift, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the other additions that we brought on that played a vital role in our success.
I mean, obviously the Sweat effect. I mean, we all know what Montez Sweat did. He changed his defense. I think adding another pass rusher this offseason is going to be pivotal. You already hit on DJ Moore. That guy instantly became, I think, one of most of our favorite players. He's lovable in the locker room. He speaks his mind. He's sticking up for Justin Fields, and he is a legit number 1 receiver. I love DJ and what he brings to this offense. But the guy that I want to talk about is big Gervon Dexter. I think that guy is going to be a beast in the middle of this defense. He's a stud. He can get off the line. He's shown that he can play either position at defensive tackle. He can play the nose or the 3-tech. And I think going into next season, that's going to be really valuable. A lot of people still pin 3-tech as one of our huge needs. I think Dexter steps up and ends up being a starter next year.
Yeah, I like that. I was blessed, I would say, to be able to have Swift during that time during the draft because that's his expertise, period. And I was trying to get better with it. I'm a player that's on the team person. I don't like having to go through the NCAA, this, that, and the third, and try to find film and things of that nature and look at prospects. But he got me got me hyped about it. I mean, we identified Roshan Johnson early, Jervon Dexter, with his help. And
got to shout out Darnell Wright too. I mean, he hasn't been a monster all year, but I think he's going to be one of the best tackles in football eventually.
Yeah, and we got to remember that he was playing with one arm for a majority of the season too, and learning while going against some of the best, like the best. So, and he handled himself pretty well. I think his first 8 sacks was over 6 or 7 games, and then it went down for a while. He had about 0 sacks for about 4 to 5 games. So, I think another offseason, he gets healthy, he'll be all right. But my favorite addition, Andrew Billings. I think that helped Dexter a lot too. Getting a big dog right there for cheap, and then extending him again for cheap. Run stopper, big body, immovable. I mean, I know the Packers game didn't look that good, but it's the end of the season. I feel like that was a letdown game. I think they came in with I don't know how they came off of the Atlanta game feeling that way, but even the post-game comments kind of let me know that they came into that Packers game like, bro, we ready to be done with these coaches. But again,
I think we celebrated a little bit too early in Atlanta, and I think it's hard to match the intensity of a team that is playing for the playoff spot versus a team that is playing for nothing, really. I mean, playing for some bonuses, really, but I mean, that's it. I mean, some of those guys may be playing for jobs next year, but there's not really a lot to play for. A lot of those guys already checked out thinking about the off season. So it's just hard to match that, I feel like. But we saw Detroit do it last year. So that's also a sign of the coaches. The coaches couldn't get these guys to match that intensity. And that might be enough right there. The writing could be on the wall, but I still think it's good. We'll get to that later. Yeah,
I know.
I won't get ahead.
I swear. That's why I've been trying to bite my tongue so we can save it for that. So obviously, if we did impress, we got to do players who disappointed. We'll go ahead and start.
Man, right off the muscle, I got to go to right guard Nate Davis. Like it started in preseason. It started, and again, like if someone has a family death, I get it. Like I do, but it just seemed like the signing was it wasn't ideal. It wasn't a good fit for what we needed to provide a linchpin within the offense and provide stability within that line. And then I think he had a high ankle sprain and he was out another 4 or 5 games. So it was just like, unfortunately, it just didn't work out. Like, and I know we got him on a 3-year deal, $30 million, but at this point, it's kind of like buyer's remorse. And then on the defense, I'm gonna look at Eddie Jackson. I love Bojack, but when I look at what I'm paying Bojack, the leadership is cool, but the productivity, the Olay, the Matador, like 1 interception for the whole year, and then next year he's on the books for $18 million. It's like I need more. Like I need more. And at the end of the day, we did, like even yesterday, it was a lot of whiffing. It was a lot of reluctancy to come up and hit Aaron Jones and, make tackles. But at the end of the day, we need more, period. Those are my 2.
I feel it. I could step in. I mean, I'll start it off with Luke Getsy. I'm just going to say his name. I won't delve into it too much, but he disappointed me. Nate Davis, you nailed that one on the head, Will. I think it was a good signing. It just, for some reason, it hasn't worked out. We can get out of his contract after next season, so 1 more year with him, but then he's probably gone. As well as on offensive line, the whole center group, nobody stepped up at center. Lucas Patrick, Cody Whitehair, Dan Feeney. That position has to be addressed this offseason. And then on defense, you nailed it again with Bojack. Huge disappointment. They're just, I think on the defense, we have what could be a top 10 defense, but what we didn't have, red zone defense, 32nd in the NFL in the red zone. So it's like we could force a ton of 3 and outs, but as soon as they get down there in the red zone, they're going to punch it in the end zone. And I don't know if that's Eberflus getting, a lot of times you can get caught. If an offense gets a big play and gets into the red zone, they're going to go hurry up. They're not going to let you sub. And if Eberflus doesn't have his guys subbed in and they get in the red zone like that, you're in a position where either you got to call a timeout or, hey, you got to keep Dominique Robinson and Rasheem Green in there for a huge play. So there's a lot that disappointed me this year, but a lot of it had to do with the coaches. But I'll even throw Justin Fields in there a little bit. I expected more from him this year. But my biggest disappointment is probably going to be receivers other than DJ Moore. The entire room. Claypool started it out. Huge disappointment, and then got traded off the team. But then Darnell Mooney, a guy who we were talking about a year ago, is he a number 1 receiver or not? And now it's like, is he a number 4 receiver? Like it just wasn't there. I don't know if missing the entire offseason really hurt him that much, or if it's something about Luke Getsy's offense that he just doesn't get. I know Luke Getsy likes to use him as kind of a distraction on a lot of routes, kind of get the safety's attention, open someone else up. Maybe he hasn't bought into it. I don't know what's going on there, but Mooney was a huge disappointment.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest disappointment is Darnell Mooney. I'm thinking about all the opportunities that he had that later on in the year ended up going to Tyler Scott that ended up not being completed. Like that could have been Darnell Mooney. And I do agree. I feel like it might have been that Allen Robinson situation where he just gave up, wasn't with whatever their ideology was that season, and he just started moseying through the season, just loafing, as Eberflus would say. So I just feel like he wasn't into it as he normally would. Maybe they asked him to do things that he wasn't willing to do, or felt like, if I'm gonna be a decoy, then what's the point? I'm not gonna get paid as a decoy. So, I feel
that's another point. Yeah, it was a contract year for him, so, and he didn't get a lot of targets.
Exactly. So whether it comes from us or auditioning for another team, he didn't get that opportunity. So I could see why it happened, but it's still disappointing nonetheless, because you still got to get out there. You still got to do whatever job you're being asked to do. You're under a previous contract. So, but I do feel that, like, when you don't feel like you're a part of the plan or part of the future, you see Chase Claypool added, you see Tyler Scott added, and you feel like you're being pushed out. But I felt like once Chase Claypool was traded, that was your opportunity to come in and snatch the reins. Like, I'm back. Like, what's good? DJ Moore, let's go out there. Let's work out together. Let's figure it out. Let's get in Getsy's ear and let's get these deep balls going. So he was my biggest disappointment, because I felt like he would be able to open up, at least do more downfield with DJ Moore doing a lot of the underneath intermediate. We know DJ Moore can do the deep ball stuff, but that's what we love about Mooney, that I'm gonna break you off at the line of scrimmage, out there. And we didn't get to see that. I don't even remember one deep ball thrown to him, and that's sad. So obviously I don't feel like he's coming back. On the other side of the ball, Bojack, I understand the injury took him out last year, and that's unfortunate, but it looked like he was lost back there. I felt like it was his rookie year again, and even his rookie year, he didn't look lost. So I'm just saying, he just looked like a rookie, a deer in the headlights a lot of times, especially versus the Packers. It's like they ate him up, like they knew him, like they knew his tendencies. So those are my two biggest disappointments. But we're going to move on to the next segment. And I want to get grades from you guys on Ryan Poe's and Ian Cunningham's construction of the roster for 2023 as a whole. As you guys said, there were impressive pieces and there were disappointments. So how would you grade the roster as a whole?
I'll start this one off. I still gotta give Poles and Cunningham at least an A- just from the improvement from last year and how bad we were to this year. Did they hit on every single area? No, but they improved this roster and the future of this team in 1 year more so than I've seen in 1 year, probably in my entire life as a Bears fan. So I have to give them an A for that, but I will point out some of the misses. I disagreed with it when it happened. I thought we needed a new center. I thought we needed to draft a center. There was good centers in this draft. I understand you don't want a rookie there, but if a rookie could potentially come in and play better than how awful the guys we've had there have been. So I would have at least taken a shot. Other than that, he took shots at wide receiver. Claypool not working out ended up being a huge problem this season. And then I think Luke Getsy not ever figuring it out. I think at some point I would have wanted to switch play callers. As Ryan Poles, you might have to step in there and be like, look, we don't have to fire Luke Getsy, but let's let Andrew Janoko have a shot, at least get in the mix of play calling next week. Let's see if it changes anything. Because you can be a good offensive coordinator and be able to scheme things, but just not be good at calling plays in the flow of a game. So I wish something on that would have changed, but I love the direction this team is heading, so I have to give them a lot of props for that.
Will?
Yeah, I said B-. And part of it is everything Swift just said, because not having a center that can be like your command and control and make sure that line know where blitzes are coming from, and be able to, do checks at the line. Because Cody, Dan, and Lucas, to me, they were extremely inconsistent and did a poor job as far as managing, stunts, blitzes, things of that magnitude. Also, just getting a formidable 3-tech, because I know we ran it back with Justin Jones, but in order for that defense to work, once I saw the level of personnel we had, even before we picked up Unique Ngakoue, and even after we picked up Unique Ngakoue, I just knew that front four was not going to get the level of pressure needed in order to make that defense work. And we saw that because all of that played a role in the games that we lost early on before we got swept, like the Broncos game, like the Buccaneers game. Because people, when you're sitting up here letting people like Baker Mayfield have a perfect passer rating because you're not getting pressure on him, like that to me, that's the issue. The first game, not getting pressure on Jordan Love. So those were two areas, and I know he didn't have the resources to get everybody at the time, but by clearing the books, I just hope moving forward, which I think we will, we're going to fix those deficiencies for this year.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a B, no plus, no minus. I'm gonna give it a B. Coming in, I thought it was a B plus, A-. Absolutely. I agree with Swift. I wanted a center bad. And as we see why, that interior is a mess. Even with Nate Davis, I was a little nervous because he can't handle two positions every snap. So that, to me, not filling that hole with either a decent veteran or a draft pick that can grow with Justin, it was disappointing. And then again, hindsight 2020 is why I'm giving a B. Nate Davis seems like a miss. Maybe next year he comes back strong. I don't know. Maybe it was the family issues and things of that nature off the field. That was a big miss. And as people are saying in the chat, I'm trying to show all the chat comments and things of that nature. I agree with those disappointments as well. So I'll give it a B. I love the draft class. I love that we're able to get, Tyreek Stevenson, Dexter, Wright at one, and he took that risk to not get Carter, and Jervon Dexter looked like, he may be that next big thing in the defensive trenches interior. So I love that. And then later on in the draft, we get Terrell Smith, who looks like a starting cornerback to me. So I'm saying bring back Jalen Johnson, but I'm not so upset if Terrell Smith can somehow become that 5th round steal that Braxton Jones has become, and will continue to be, hopefully. So that's my grade. I give it a B. The next segment we're going to go into, since we're talking about Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham, every year, or at least last year, I should say, we get people trying to pick at our staff. They don't want Getsy. They don't want Eberflus. We know that. So they want the guys that are building the product that we're putting on the field. And Ian Cunningham and Ryan Poles have done an amazing job of doing so, right? So right off the bat, as soon as Sunday's games were ending, we got a whole bunch of notifications that it's a possibility that Ian Cunningham will be getting calls. And then I woke up this morning after several other, firings and interviews being set up, and I seen Swift's tweet. So I want to bring that up. Give me a second. Let's see here. So Swift came out with this tweet here, saying that he talked about this last night. This was Ian Rappaport saying the Commanders have just put in a request to the Chicago Bears to interview Ian Cunningham. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this off to Swift. What would actually come of or come from Ian Cunningham being hired away from the Bears?
I mean, the 2 third-round picks is the biggest thing. I mean, we get 2 third-round picks from that, one this year, one in 2025, and that's huge. I mean, 2 third-round picks that we already have an extra 2nd-round pick next year as well, so that's huge. I think Cunningham pretty much has his choice of GM jobs. I think there's one guy that's in competition. I don't remember his name, but the assistant GM in San Francisco, he's also turned down a lot of interview requests, but he also accepted a request with Washington. I think that job's a little more prestigious than people think. I've heard a couple people say the Washington job's not that big. I think that's a big job. I think that one and the Chargers are both going to be good jobs. And then I just quickly wanted to point out the chat. A couple guys pointed it out. Unique Ngakoue, DeMarcus Walker, two more disappointments this year. Guys that they played a little bit better once we got Montez Sweat, but by themselves didn't do a whole lot. But Ian Cunningham, probably going to be gone this year, probably going to add 2 third-round picks. I like it. I think him and Ryan Poles, that is his right-hand man. I'd love to keep him for another year, but he's going to be in high demand this offseason for sure.
Okay. What do you think we get? I think you were talking about compensation that we possibly get if he is hired away. Can you go through that for us?
Yeah, 2 third-round picks.
Oh, you already said. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll get 1 third-round pick this year, and then 1 third-round pick in 2025.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate you, bro. Sorry, I'm trying to work the production and get the information out and make sure we cover the things that you presented today over Twitter. So let's get us back. So the next thing we're going to go into, I'm sorry, DJ Moore came out the game throwing some Cat Williams out there. He was low key throwing people under the bus, and by people I mean coaches, and it was beautiful. It was just as beautiful as that Cat Williams interview, and I laughed not just at the hat that he was wearing, but he was definitely not co-signing Lou Getsy, that's for sure. But Swift pointed out a quote, and I'm going to try to bring it up real quick. A quote that he made. That was that this morning after the exit interviews?
Yeah, correct? It was after his exit interview. It was around 11 this morning.
All right. So I'm going to try to bring up that sound bit real quick.
DJ, are the exit interviews an opportunity for you to provide input on what you'd like to do, and if so, did you take advantage of that opportunity?
It is. I did, and like I said, when it come out, whatever happens, and maybe it's what I said they do or not. It's really not up. It's not up to me, but just to have a voice on it is pretty good.
And they seem receptive to you.
Yeah. Who wouldn't be receptive to me? You know what I'm saying? Got this smile and everything. So
were they writing stuff down as you were talking?
Of course. Yeah. I didn't write nothing down. I'm just ready to rest up.
Man, he's great, man. I love the point he's made. Oh, you got more?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm clicking the button.
The point he was making, he was basically saying he believes we already have a quarterback and the team could use another weapon like him. And he thinks that'll unlock the offense. And they asked him, like, if the coaches and GM listen to him. And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't they? I got this great smile. How could you not listen to me? So I love DJ, his swagger, the way he's sticking up for Justin. Whether or not, I know people will say DJ's not the GM, but you got to also realize a player that you just traded the #1 pick for last year. He was a huge part of that deal. And he also was close to our franchise record in receiving this year. So he has a little bit of pull, and he definitely wants Justin back. So we'll see if that matters. And he threw Getsy under the bus a little bit too. He said something about play calling last night in his interview after the game. He said, we need to call plays that put our playmakers in position to make plays downfield. And can't say it better than that. That's on Luke Getsy. That's taking Luke Getsy and saying, it's on him.
Yikes. Hey, Will, what did you get out of that?
Same thing like Swifty just said at the end of the day, and he was coy with it when he was like, look, we need to be more explosive down the field. So that goes and reverts back to coaching. But trying to be explosive again, you gotta, like, I don't understand why Luke wasn't doing more 12 personnel when he saw his offensive line was getting whipped. Instead of having Trent Taylor going over there trying to crack block Roshan Gary, why not have Mercedes Lewis do it?
Man, I think I'm bigger than Trent Taylor. Like, I would have went in and blocked for Justin if they needed me. They could have just called, bro.
Right, but that's what I'm saying though. Like, and then I saw Preston Smith come from the other side. Why? Because Nate Davis didn't get out on the kick out. Matter of fact, I think he went out because he hurt his toe. That's what he said. So Justin got sandwiched. So I'm sitting here like, I think out of 24 passes, he got pressured on 15 of them? Got sacked on 5? Whereas with Jordan Love, like 1 or 2? Like, come on. But people still put the onus on Justin. Because it's like, if you're in the shotgun and you at the back of your drop, you got Gary Smith, Kenny Clark, Benton, 95, because he done hit a swim move on Tab, and he in your lap. Like, what do you expect this man to do? And like DJ said, like he was hinting without saying it directly, so he wouldn't be improperly quoted, that they do need some more playmakers, something that we've been saying and seeing pretty much since week 1.
Yes, sir. So with that being said, that helps us lead into me allowing the dogs to be let out. I'm gonna open up the gate and we're gonna finally get to it because we've been chomping at the bit. Evaluating Coach Luke Getsy. Go ahead, Swift. I'm gonna let you take this one. Oh, your mic.
My bad. I'm so disappointed in Getsy, man. He talked a good game last year. We all bought in a little bit. He's bringing that West Coast Shanahan style offense, but all it seemed like is that he's trying to make Aaron Rodgers or trying to make Justin Fields be Aaron Rodgers. And it's not who he is. And you just don't see him make adjustments. What we've seen in both Packer games this year and this should be a good measuring stick of where he's at. First game of the season, last game of the season, and we were out coached both times. They exposed us on offense. They knew when they only sent 4 pass rushers, we blocked it. We could block it at least 60% of the time. But if they blitzed, we had someone in Justin Fields' lap before he hit his drop every time. And they knew it. They sent the blitzes right up the middle because they know our team. They know Lucas Patrick. They know these guys can't handle the pressure up the middle. They sent the blitzes right at Lucas Patrick, who wasn't even in the game. It was Dan Feeney. But it was Dan Feeney and then Nate Davis and then Cody Whitehair just getting beat. And it was honestly not fun to watch. But I don't even know what to say with Luke Getsy right now, but it's just been so disappointing that I almost am just ready for them to just make the call and fire the guy because I'm ready for us to move on.
I hear you. Hey, they all look the same to me, so I don't blame you for mixing up Lucas Patrick, Mr. Feeney, or Whitehair.
All bums. None of them can snap. None of them can block. I don't know what they're doing, man.
Straight like that. Hey, yo, Will, go ahead. Let them dogs out, bro.
Luke gets an F+. You know, whether it's personnel, whether it's having Tyler Scott, Trent Taylor going down, you know, small on big, blocking edge rushers. Like every game, like it's just like, do you not know how to create a rhyme and a reason throughout the game? Like you got something that's working. Now you want to get cute. Run Cole Kmet up from the first game of the year, the first drive of the year. On a 3rd and 1, they ran Cole Kmet on a quarterback like sneak. I'm like, what are we doing? Justin 6'4", 230. And I'm like just getting cute instead of just going downhill, smash mouth. Like when you look at each game, there was a pivotal play where it was bad personnel grouping. When we developed momentum and didn't have those lulls throughout the game, you know, due to his inefficient and inconsistent play calling, point blank period. And the interior lineman the entire year, for the most part, was a mess. Like Tevin shined for a good bit, but Nate Davis, Lucas Patrick, Feeney, Whitehair, like it was ridiculous that Justin had to live behind that line for this entire year and realistically didn't get knocked out for the rest of the year because of the inability of Luke to put in at the right time. Like he did a great job when Bajan was in there as far as formations, running 12 and 13 personnel, making sure that Tyson was protected. But we should have saw some of those same formations and route concepts when Justin and again he'll say, well, that doesn't play to Justin's strength. But what does play to his strength is having actual tight ends that can match up with edge rushers versus a 5'9", 5'10" wide receiver at 170 pounds soaking wet that's going to get mauled and therefore get Justin mauled. To me, a lot of this stuff is common sense. It took us the game against the Falcons where we started actually running crossing routes. Like we didn't see none of that. If you know a team is going to blitz, like you don't have nobody to fill that void where the blitz is coming from. We never have a check down. So therefore, guess what? Justin got to hold the ball and he gets sacked. Like to me, a lot of this stuff is common sense. But unfortunately, I don't even think common sense is coming with Luke because he's always trying to be the smartest person in the room and outthink his competitor with logic that is flawed at best.
Yeah. Will said, let's bring everybody back. Man. So I guess I'll talk about it. I didn't think he was shit last year. You know what I'm saying? I guess I'll throw out the first cuss of the podcast season. I didn't want him to come back at all. I feel like he can do the basics, which is okay. It's kind of like inserting Tyson Bagent and expecting Justin Fields. Let that sink in. You think some dynamic shit gonna happen, and it's not gonna happen. It's just he can do the basics, he can do the intermediate, but just trying to adjust on the fly, trying to get out of bad situations when things are stagnant and not working, he cannot coach himself out of a UPS box. And it's just trash. It's sad to see because we have so much talent on this roster, and people talk about championship windows and resetting quarterback clocks and all these different things, trying to keep this young roster in playoff contention or pushing for the playoffs and for the Super Bowl every year. You can't do that when your coach can't make adjustments. They can't grow. The man never called plays before. I don't understand why we hired him. I understand giving people a chance, but after you see what the coach is and things haven't grown, or at least consistently grown, and you haven't seen a dynamic game plan be done, because to me, a lot of the dynamics, the 4 touchdown games, the Atlanta game, that was Justin to me. That's the Justin that we thought we were getting when he was drafted. Like, that's his arm talent. A lot of that is his arm talent or him finding a wide open person. Like, a lot of people try to say, well, those games he drew up great route combinations and all this. Show me, because it just looks basic, because he does that same wheel route with DJ Moore. Then the next game, it's Tyler Scott. Then the next game, it's Trent Taylor. and it's like, I see it 3 to 4 times a game. So it's like, that's why the Packers were able to do what they were able to do. They know his tendencies. They know what he's going to do because he learned from Master LaFleur. And he just checks him every game. Like even the Packers game where it looked like we were offensively good last year, where Justin Field threw 2 bombs to Equinemius St. Brown and N'Keal Harry. Like, come on, man. Those things were Justin finding those guys. Those wasn't even plays. Those were broken plays that he found them deep. So none of the Packers games have we seen anything dynamic from Luke Getsy. So I tweeted a little earlier that if they can figure it out, if they can him right off the momentum of a game like the Atlanta Falcons, where everybody was like, man, Luke Getsy done made it. Look at what they did in the snow through the air, and then come in and the Packers shut it down like, that's our game plan. We'll show you how to stop that. Next year, if it's the same thing, it's going to be the same result. So let's go ahead and let the dogs out on the other guy. Will, I'm going to go ahead and let you start this one out. We're going to go into evaluating Coach Flus.
Well, like I said in the beginning, I think he did a poor job of managing expectations, in-game playing situations. The guys weren't ready from the first game coming out the gates. Then, a game like against Denver, like when you're the CEO, you're the coach, and you're managing the entire team. I think he had a lot of mental lapses throughout the season, whereas you can kind of foresee that, a lot of the things that happen, like the wheels falling off and things starting to unravel. If we could see it as a coach, he had to see it. And then not being able, and I know if my quarterback is getting hit repeatedly late, like I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get a 15-yard pick. Like I'm going to do something to draw attention to the fact that my quarterback needs to be protected and treated like the other 31 quarterbacks in the league. Because I saw Mullins from the Vikings. I saw the quarterback at the time with the Falcons. Like we tapped him, he got 15 yards. Like once Justin commits to that slide, and you still see people coming at him, hitting him with a shoulder to the head, slapping him on the head. And it's like something has to be done. If I'm the coach, I'm going to step up and make sure that New York, the officiating, Roger Goodell, is going to implement some type of solution. Not going forward against Denver and not kicking that field goal, even though we know the defense was horrendous. Until we got Sweat, like no game that we played up until getting Sweat was safe. Even that Washington game where we put up, I think, almost 40 points, if not 40. at some point they were starting to come back before we hit that big play to DJ Moore that scored a touchdown. So I think all in all, he did a good job keeping the guys plugged in. We didn't do like the guys in San Diego or the LA Chargers where they just quit on Staley and gave up 63 points to the Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders. So for that, if I got to give him a letter grade, I'm going to say a C+ because he kept the locker room together. And when they folded, they did keep playing, but I want to see dominant performances against the better teams. I'm not going to necessarily say the greats, but every good team that we played, it was a bloodbath. And the Chargers ended up not even being a good team, as you can see. So, if we're going to retain, which it looks like we are, and, I would have rather looked at another option, but continuity and consistency, well, we'll say continuity because we're in year 2 of a rebuild. We give him one more year with another last play schedule and capital and draft capital. And if we can't match that, then I think next year ultimately is playoffs boom or bust. So if Flus can't leverage these resources that he has, then more than likely he'll write off his fate next year. But I give him a C+ as a letter grade as far as keeping the team together and keeping some fight in those guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
I'm pretty much right there with it. I mean, a C+. I mean, he kept the team together.
Mm-hmm.
Defense got going once Montez Sweat got here, but I mean, is it enough? I don't know, man.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a C. Middle of the road. Half the season, we dealt with a trash defense that absolutely ruined probably 2 of Justin Fields' best games this season. Obviously, the Denver Broncos game. And shout out to Nick over there at Justin of the Year Chicago. I was at his watch party for the Denver Broncos joint. We were trying to get Swift here, you know what I'm saying? But, he always working, so we couldn't get him here. But but that was disappointing. We out in public, we out in Wrigleyville, and everybody hyped up, and we thinking we got it. But I got that feeling in my heart. I'm like, don't celebrate too soon. We've seen this movie before where we get up last year versus Detroit versus Miami Dolphins, and we just collapse on defense. Like Justin does enough with his arm, with his legs, whatever it is. To me, I always say a yard is a yard, no matter how you pass or rush it. A touchdown is a touchdown, whether you run it in or pass it. So I don't care about none of that stuff. I just want my quarterback to be productive. So watching those games, I thought we had it in the bag for a second, but then the defense started cracking, and not even just like little cracks, just big leaky cracks. So, that was disappointing. The Denver game, thinking that the offense is pushing forward. And then the Detroit game, the first one, Justin coming in and being almost conservative, if you will. To me, he, with his arm at least, he didn't have to do too much. He ran when he needed to. He checked down. He got the ball out quick. And that was, the first game back. And it looked like a new Justin, and it looked like a controlled Justin. And you wasted that effort in against a division rival. And it was just sad to me. So in my mind, I feel like he failed the first half of the season. So I can't give him a plus anything. Over the second half, obviously he gets our boy Sweat, and they get in tune. So the second half, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's true. Maybe he needed the right parts. He always talks about the front four, rushing the front four and not having a blitz so often, and getting that pressure and causing the launch point to move, or causing nervous feet, mistake interception throws or errant passes for turnovers. And you see Sweat did his thing, ended the year with leading the Commanders and the Bears in sacks. That's crazy. Like that tells you that your scheme isn't working. You need actual talent to get through. So the second half, I give them about a B plus, A minus, because the defense did step up, regardless if it was backup quarterback sometimes, because Flacco ate us up, like killed us, and he's supposed to be somewhere eating Funyuns on the couch somewhere, and he shredded us in that second half. In the second half, what do he have? 300 yards in the second half, I believe, like close to it. 260.
212 in the fourth quarter alone.
Right. So to me, that's where it's at for me. It's a C, and I agree it's not good enough to me. So we're gonna move to that question, and we're gonna wrap it up after this. But I'm gonna let you guys answer this question, and we'll start with Swift on this one. Would you retain either of these guys just so we can have a stamp on it?
You mean Getsy or Eberflus?
You can say both. Your opinion on both.
No way for Getsy. Eberflus. If I had to say yes or no right now, I think I'd say no. Unless you can convince me, or he could convince me, that he's going to bring in an offensive coordinator that has at least called plays before. The only way we could do that is if we get a guy who's called plays, but we can kind of give him a raise and make him assistant head coach. And it's very unlikely. I just don't see it. So if I had to choose, I'd probably say move on. Clean slate.
For sure. Will, come on, give it to us. Give us the verdict on both of these guys.
Oh, yeah, Getsy, I'm strapping him on SpaceX and let him go to the moon. Straight up. Eberflus, again, like I say, he showed me growth. He showed me progress. The mere fact as a leader, and I know people say, like, he's like more of a dad going to Disney World or something. But, let's be honest. The likelihood of us getting now we could get a Jim Harbaugh, that'd be great. But based on what's available, if he brings in a solid DC like Chico Rivera or Leslie Frazier or somebody like that, and then bring in a print, I'm looking at like who's going to be a premier OC that we can look at to bring in that would be an ideal fit. Because I like Greg Roman, but I know in Baltimore, he and Lamar, they bang heads. So it's like we got to look at the dynamics of who's available, who'll be willing to come, first of all, based off the situation. But, bottom line, I'd keep Flus because I think the players like him. And if you get other pieces, like a 3-tech, another edge, free safety, I think the defense definitely will keep ascending upward. And if we invest the resources in the offense and we get a viable OC, I think we're looking at 10, 11 wins next year if we bring in a good OC and the DC is very aggressive. So like that's the asterisk that I'm putting on it. Because I still want more aggression out of Flu. I want to see, don't be afraid to blitz. Don't just sit back in that cover too. Because somebody like, as we saw, Jordan Love and Justin Herbert, and Pat Mahomes, quarterbacks like that, they're gonna pick that thing apart if you're not getting pressure on them. So, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing it back.
True.
Yeah.
Final note, I'll just throw this out there for anybody still watching. We got the national championship game. It says it's supposed to start now, but it doesn't start for another 15 minutes. People watching that game for Washington, quarterback Michael Penix Jr., all three of their receivers, Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. Watch their tackle, Troy Fatanu. On defense, watch their defensive ends. Braylon Trice is a monster. On Michigan, check out J.J. McCarthy and their running backs, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Their center got bullied last week. I'm no longer a fan of him. But you can check out wide receiver Roman Wilson as well. Going to be an awesome game. I'm rooting for the Huskies. Kyler Gordon should be there. Just a little tidbit.
Cool. We're gonna wrap it up in a second. That was our last thing. Y'all can go ahead and comment and let us know what y'all verdicts are on Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, how he's done once this episode is over. The other chat or the other comment section should open up. So please come back. Let us know how the show went for you all. But make sure you go check out those guys because this will be Swift's first game, probably evaluating and doing some evaluation. So I'm sure we're going to see some clips on some guys coming up soon for some guys that he would like the guys to look at during the draft. So I'm going to wrap it up, though. Great episode, fellas. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. I know it was last minute. We put the tweet out probably a little bit early this morning, and you guys probably didn't get a chance to really get the vibe out to everybody else, but we would love it if you guys can share and talk about the show, tweet about MODG podcast, Monsters of the Gridiron. We want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for hitting up the chat, making it active. We'll try to continuously show you all's comments so y'all don't feel like y'all left out of the conversation. But we appreciate you all. We really, really are big on bringing facts. If you've ever watched Swift's show, he's always, go ahead and say it, Swift.
Knowledge over narratives, baby. Knowledge over narratives.
Knowledge over narratives, right? Well, you got anything else for everybody?
No, that's spot on. And that's what we aim for every show. Knowledge over narratives, no agendas, no flip-flopping. Basically we're going to give you the facts, give you what you need in order to not only grow, within this bear community, but not be sold or wood nickel by those that are just pushing agendas and not realistically trying to build a long-term sustainable product where every year, guess what? We'll celebrate going to the playoffs. It's not about agendas, ladies and gentlemen. It's about building a long-term sustainable product where we can break this 10-year curse with the Green Bay Packers and move forward. Because before we win the North, we got to beat Green Bay.
That's true, man. That's true. And then also, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions, we're going to try to do a podcast every week. Might not always get there. We're going to try to do one a week. And then we're going to also try to do a video where we answer fan questions as well. If you guys have good questions or comments that you want all of us or one of us to answer, drop them in the comments below. Let us know, and we'll get back to you later in the week or next week. And as always, man, bear down, guys. Enjoy that championship game. I think it's going to be a great game tonight. Great football still to go.
For sure. So again, we want to thank you guys. And just to let you know, we bring in facts and bringing a giant FU to media narratives. Peace.
Good night.